Welcome, Perko. Since this is the inaugural restream, I guess I'm in the sort of driver's seat. What episode number are we on at this point?
I'm about to get that started. Welcome back. I should say welcome for the first time here on the live stream. So let me give an official hello and welcome to the 291st edition of the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast. In Nashville, Tennessee, I'm the Professor Emeritus Matt Perkins, joined, as always, a shovel pass across the Harpeth River from me here in the Music City. It's our own offensive coordinator, the coach, Corey Burton.
Yeah, man, what's up? So you can actually see me now, all you new IM listeners, and we are actually live. So welcome, our third amigo sitting right below you, Matt. I love it, man. I'm ready to get going, man. This is exciting stuff.
Yeah, we can't get started though without the third amigo in the second city. A man who knows that the best Hamburg is number 2. It's our intrepid blogger from Big Ten and Counting, Josh Cook.
Yeah, I don't, Coach. I don't know if I could do this format. Back when we just did the podcast days, I was generally naked throughout the entire recording, and now I have to put on clothes, and it's ruining everything.
You can just put on a little half shirt and you're good. Like
just put a dickie on.
Yeah, there you go.
I was gonna say, just like you're playing for Miami in 1987.
Yes.
All right. Well, as you guys know, we are brought to you by betonline.ag. Everyone knows, the Super Bowl's over, but that does not mean sports are over. In fact, if you head on over to our friends, our partners over at betonline.ag, they have a ton of different options for you. Well, they've got odds, totals, player performance, props, pretty much anything you can imagine for basketball, pro and college hoops. You've got some awesome other great sports out there. Don't forget about tennis. Personally, that is actually probably the sport I gamble the most on is tennis.
How do you? Okay. I got to stop you there. How do you bet on tennis? Like what do you do there?
So money line, who's going to win a match? You can, how many total games, how many total sets. Who's going to win the first set, who's going to win the second set. Personally, I'm a big parlay guy. My cousin and I will often parlay together 5, 6. We hit an 8-match parlay during the Australian Open a couple of weeks ago that paid 12-1. That was a fun one. So, but you can check out all the tennis betting as well as basketball, football when we're back in season, baseball if there is a season, hockey, you name it. Head on over to betonline.ag or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit with the promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. That'll get you started. They've got, like I said, tennis, hockey, basketball, boxing, UFC, favorite Vegas casino games. They are
Caribbean poker, baby.
Yeah, baby. The number 1 online wagering destination. Yeah. The fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. Play your favorite Vegas casino games. Bet online where the game starts. Well, speaking of starting and stopping very quickly, we had a whole kerfuffle over the past, I want to say about 5 days here.
And if you hold your breath, there'll be a kerfuffle in our comment section here. If you're watching this live, you can join us on the chat and get your comments in the show. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we've got a whole lot happening down at Grambling State, which ended up being a whole lot of nothing. But to quickly recap, Art Briles, the disgraced former head coach of Baylor, heck, he was disgraced from the Texas high school he was coaching after Baylor, was hired very questionably, I'm going to editorialize here, by Hugh Jackson, he of 1-31 head coaching fame for the Cleveland Browns, now the head man at Grambling State. He hired Art Briles to be the offensive coordinator. And then that after word got out and people were not happy about it, it came down today, actually we're recording this on a Tuesday, that he is not actually going to be the OC there and that they made some mistakes. But the way that they handled this, Josh, was just awful from start to finish. They released the statement to the public while the Russians began to invade Ukraine. Thought they might just slip that under the radar a little bit. That is the ultimate Friday news dump if I've ever seen it. Josh, I mean, I have thoughts on what Grambling shouldn't do moving forward, but I want to get yours first.
Well, okay, so there's so many layers to this onion. First of all, we're talking about one of the best HBCU football programs, one of the best FCS programs. This is a school with 15 Black College National Championships, one as recently as 2016. Their previous coach ran into a little bit of struggle after the 2017 season. So, getting rid of Broderick Fobbs, he was 54-32, 42-17 in conference. You could say, all right, yeah, they've fallen on some hard times. The COVID season was atrocious. 2021 wasn't too hot. So making the change there. Okay, fine. But starting with layer one, Hugh Jackson. 3-36. Hugh Jackson.
So what
at Cleveland?
Yeah.
Let's throw in his Oakland numbers. Let's give him a little bit of some bump. Oh, that bumps him up to 1144. He's 1144-1 for his career, 336-1 at Cleveland. He's awful. He has no business being a head coach.
Mm-mm.
He has no business being a college head coach,
Mm-mm.
where he has pretty much none experience. So there's layer number one. Layer number two, let's assume, just for the sake of a thought experiment, that Art Briles had no taint whatsoever. Let's say he had just retired of his own accord back in 2015, just for the sake of this.
Wanted to spend some time with his family.
Yeah. You're telling me you want to hire a 66-year-old offensive coordinator who hasn't coached in college football in 7 years. Idiotic hire. Head coach, idiotic hire, offensive coordinator. Then you factor in the reason why Art Briles was fired in disgrace. This guy has no business being around any university. And Grambling knew it. That's why they did all the shady stuff with the hire and the quasi-denial, then the quasi-support, and then eventually the very quiet, coming from Art Briles' camp of, oh yeah, actually I'm not taking that job. Train wreck. Yeah. All across the board.
Absolute train wreck. Coach, did you see the absolutely asinine excuse and thing that Hugh Jackson put up as sort of the rationale behind hiring him, and almost painting Briles as the victim in all of this and talking about re-victimization?
Yeah, that disturbed me there. That honestly could be a fireable offense for Hugh Jackson. I mean, what kind of judgment do you have to stick your nose in that situation? I mean, that's a toxic situation. What Art Briles did and allowed to happen when he was at Baylor University was absolutely despicable and disgusting. And you want to welcome that into your program, a storied program like Grambling State. Eddie Robinson is, I don't know, he would be beside himself if he were here right now.
He's rolling over in his grave.
And it's a disgrace.
Rolling over in his grave. He is one of the great football coaches in college football history.
Yes.
And you are completely tainting his legacy and what he did for that program by running this clown show.
Is there not another offensive coordinator out of the thousands of coaches out there that could have been a better hire than this?
Is there not a much better hire?
Yes, I would have, and I would have gone there in a heartbeat, man. That's a storied program. Is there not somebody why are you even hiring Hugh Jackson? What qualifications did he have just on outside of judgment alone, you look at his record, you look at what he's done. He's got to be a hell of an interviewer, I guess. I don't know, but I mean, there's TSU questionable to hire Eddie George, but that seems to be working. He's got a good head on his shoulders. Coach Prime doing the things he's doing at Jackson State.
But we kind of knew Coach Prime would be good. We knew that Coach Prime would be good. Mm-hmm. We knew he'd be able to recruit, but we also knew that he showed head coaching chops, at least in a very high level in Texas high schools. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Texas high schools might as well be FCS. In a lot of places.
Some programs, absolutely, and definitely where he was. So we knew he was going to be good. We knew the pedigree that he has. What pedigree does Hugh Jackson have?
A lot of losing at the NFL level,
none whatsoever.
What I want.
It would have been better to hire Chad Ochocinco than Hugh Jackson.
I mean, Coach, even if he is, I
love Chad Ochocinco.
Josh mentioned he's been out of the game for 7 years. Even if, we're talking about the Baylor situation was something we were talking about in our first year doing this podcast. Yeah. We're entering our 9th season here.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
And, we were talking about that, and, we were all grandstanding about it, and rightfully so. But, Coach, even if he still has it mentally, can still scheme it up, 7 years for being out of the game.
You want to talk about drastic changes?
For the sake of argument, even if he still is this offensive genius, the risk-reward proposition here for the amount of negative publicity and crap you are going to get for hiring him far outweighs any positivity that he could bring in simply on-the-field results. On top of that, if I have a son who is being recruited by Grambling as well as Alcorn State, Mississippi Valley State, any of the HBCUs in the area, Southern, Jackson State, whatever, every single coach can use that against him and use that against the program and be like, I'm sorry, if I am Coach Prime, we'll just use him as an example, same conference, I'm going to go down and say, do you want your son to go learn and grow under a person who ignores rape and ignores sexual violence?
And the answer is absolutely no.
And the answer is absolutely no. It is such a lack of common sense that it is, the fact that they reneged on the situation, or he said he's not taking it, whatever, the damage is already done. I think Hugh Jackson, Josh, has got to be a dead man walking at this point. I don't know how he can recover from this without winning 3 league titles in a row.
And Josh, before you go, sorry to cut you off. If I'm Grambling, I have to cut bait with this situation and take my L. I would rather, because it's going to be a disaster either way. I would rather give a chance to some young assistant than Hugh Jackson at this point.
Well, the three of us probably can't describe the situation as well as former Grambling superstar and 2-time coach Doug Williams of the Washington professional football team, the Super Bowl winning
Commanders.
Yeah, he basically washed his hands of Grambling and was like, "I'm out. If this is what you're going to do, I'm out. I'm not supporting any of this." And
he shouldn't.
He's the greatest player in program history, or one of.
Yeah,
he is.
Yeah,
you think of Grambling, you think of 2 people: Eddie Robinson,
Doug Williams,
and Doug Williams.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's.
I think also, of the founder as well, Arthur Grambling III.
Well, good for you, Josh.
Josh.
Sometimes my delivery can be very dry.
Arthur Grambling. I love that. That was good. That caught me off guard.
Yeah, good old RDG. Mm-hmm. But the other thing I was going to say is, I'm not going to get into it right now. Just Google the Hugh Jackson Foundation and look into the money of that a little bit. Just have a little fun with that. Okay. Let's transition next to talking about a couple other things that have come up since we last recorded last month. The portal is still the entire talk of college football. We've seen the comments from Lincoln Riley saying, "Oh, I didn't take players from Oklahoma. I took them from the portal." We all know that's complete and utter BS. There are over 2,000 players. 2,000 players entered the portal so far during this cycle, and we'll get even more entering after spring ball, after spring practices, once those spring depth charts have been released and solidified. It is, I am someone who has always been all for the portal. I am very pro portal. I think that if coaches can move and leave on their own free will, players should be able to as well. However, it's getting out of hand. And I know I'm obviously not the first person to say that, but I think that, what we're seeing is that so many of these guys, especially if they haven't signed with a school already, now that the 2022 recruiting class is signed, most of these programs don't have scholarships left. Or if they do, they have very, very few. What now happens to these hundreds and hundreds, if not more than 1,000 kids who are still left in the portal in limbo? How do we sort of fix that situation? I would just want to know.
If they go to one of the FCS schools bumping up that now has more scholarships.
Who's that?
James Madison.
Yes. Is there anyone else bumping up? I can't remember.
There's a couple.
Madison. Yeah,
there's probably a couple, but no, I mean,
North Dakota State.
Division II is about to get an influx of people. Missouri State's about to be loaded with some Power 5, with some P5 guys. No, but I mean, I think honestly the only fix is for these kids to learn a hard lesson. And that sounds harsh, I know, but you can't just willy-nilly jump into the portal without somewhere to go.
Yeah.
But
also
you're taking that risk.
You're not allowed to contact other schools if you're not in the portal. Right, I can't be I live here in Nashville.
I mean, come on.
I can't be here. Yes, coach, I know, but theoretically,
yeah,
I can't be a player here at Vanderbilt and start, shooting DMs. I mean, I probably would be, if I'm trying to get out of the tire fire that is Vanderbilt football. I'd be shooting my freaking highlight film to anyone who is going to, who's going to give it the time of day to watch it. But, Vandy lost a ton of guys to the portal too. That's a different story. But it's really interesting to me to see how many of these guys are leaving. But I also think that on the flip side, it tells us a lot from the outside. Josh, do you know how many Auburn players entered the portal this cycle?
You said there's you said there was 2,000 players in the portal?
Yeah.
From Auburn, probably 1,900.
Yeah, I was going to say 18. No, it's actually 20. 20, but you think you have 85 scholarship guys, and 20 of them are in the. That's nearly 1/4 of your roster has entered the portal.
Well, also another factor is when they expanded rosters due to COVID.
Yeah,
and then they shrank it back down to 85. You had a bunch of guys get processed.
Yep, a ton of them got processed.
That's also a factor in the influx of numbers. Alabama had 14 go in the portal. Yep. I mean, Georgia had, I think, 10 or 11 or something like that. 10 or 11 or 12.
I think Georgia. Yeah. Well, I know. I thought I counted 8 for Georgia, but maybe
Brian Ferentz went in the portal, but he came back.
Josh would do anything to get Brian Ferentz away from the program.
He just got promoted.
But how do we is it just the Wild West now? Like, is there anything to cure this? Anything to do about it?
You just got to let it stabilize and normalize, and it, like everything else, it will.
Also, because if you're a kid that doesn't have prospects, sorry, Josh, to cut you off, but if you're a kid that you're not sure if you have prospects anywhere else, well, you go to the portal, like program, say, okay, good luck. Well, you don't have a scholarship back here next year, and then you are SOL. And you only haven't lost the ability to play football. You've lost an education. And let's face it, FBS schools, for the most part, you're going to have better academics than you are at definitely the D2 level, but a lot of the FCS schools as well.
Yeah, I think there are a few things that could be looked at. Maybe maybe the idea that you don't have to sit out a year. Maybe that rule could come back, and it would make people pause a little bit.
You don't.
No, but
Yeah.
Josh is saying that if you go through the portal, maybe you do have to now go back
Yeah.
to sitting out a year. Maybe that would make kids less likely to enter the portal.
I wouldn't count that against their eligibility, though.
Interesting.
There's little,
Like a forced red shirt year.
yeah, there's like little tweaks like that where, maybe when it's this wide open, you jump in real quickly and you don't really think about it. But if you're like, oh, losing a year, huh? Well, maybe I will stay.
I think if you're a head coach at a program, you take this number and say, listen, do what you want to do. But if you go to the portal, there is a chance that you could be left out in the cold.
Yeah.
Look at the 2,000 people from last year.
Yeah.
They don't have a home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them do. A lot of them don't.
Whatever you want to do, it's up to you. I'm going to put the ball in your court. We want you here, obviously, but we're going to put the ball in your court.
I'll put a bow on it here. Sorry. Go ahead, Josh.
I was just going to say, I think that one thing that, not necessarily the portal itself, but one thing that I'm sure will get unraveled at some point is the whole, like, Lincoln Riley's entire recruiting class basically going with him to USC. Like, at what point, we need to, like, Watergate investigate this. Like, at what point did he know he was going? At what point was he already a foot out the door? At what point was he recruiting those California kids, basically saying, like, hey, I'll be at USC in like 5 months. Like, at what point during the Oklahoma season did he just go, I don't give two shits about this program anymore?
It was about 20 minutes after Clay Helton was fired.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, he's a pariah. I will laugh.
I mean, he showed his true colors.
If he doesn't succeed.
He showed his true colors. And as you guys know, I am a staunch UCLA guy, and so nothing would make me happier than to see Lincoln Riley completely crap the bed and
crash and burn. Yeah.
We'll see what happens there. All right, before
the Charmin Coliseum.
Charmin Coliseum. No, I was going to say the Depends Coliseum because they're going to need it. All right. Well, before we move on, I want to remind you guys that we have a new sponsor here, and they want to remind you, what could possibly be more important than peace of mind, and that is nothing. And that's what NordVPN is here for, to give you peace of mind while you are online. And with all the threats you face today on the internet, it's more important than ever to be sure that you have the best VPN that you can get. NordVPN is the world's best VPN service, offering the fastest connectivity, most servers, and next-gen encryption to make sure that everything you do online stays secure. Plus, you can use NordVPN on all of your computers and devices, no matter the operating system. With NordVPN's unlimited bandwidth, you never have to worry about a slow connection either, and plans start at under $4 per month. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/believe. Or use our code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to get up to 70% off your NordVPN plan plus one additional month for free. It's a risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. NordVPN for your peace of mind. All right, guys. Since we last talked, unless it did come across the wire during all of our Coaching Carousel podcasts, one thing we did not talk about was the Hawaii job.
Ooh.
For a minute there, it looked like they were going to be bringing back June Jones, I want to say. Yeah, June Jones was angling for the job himself, but instead they went with the Hawaii Doug Williams, Timmy Chang. And I think this is a really interesting hire.
I like it.
Okay, so Coach, tell me what you like about this hire, because I have a couple questions that I'm going to want to ask you about, but let's hear about it a little bit more.
Well, let's look at Hawaii as a program in general, because there's somebody that, they're obviously not going to go out and get a big name. So you got to get somebody that's young, hungry, knows the program, knows the landscape. Timmy Chang knows all of that. He's a smart guy. Played in June Jones's system. I think. I mean, do I think he's going to come out? Do I think it's a home run? Possibly, but it's a risk that I think Hawaii should take, because he is I wouldn't say well respected. He's well loved, well respected. A huge part of that university's history. I mean, I think for those reasons, he will do well there. Now it's just a matter of him getting his feet wet as a head coach and doing all of the head coaching things that you do that you're not used to otherwise. But I think from a lot of other factors, I think he's a great hire. And if his coaching ability catches up with all of those things, I think he'll be really, really good for Hawaii.
Interesting. So Josh, he came over. He's been a wide receiver and tight ends coach mostly over the past couple of years at Nevada. This is a big bump up from being, a position coach to being a head coach. Now, obviously, yes, we all know he knows the lay of the land. His collegiate career was almost unmatched statistically. He put up absolutely silly numbers. That 2004 season was really special until they got absolutely beat the F down by Georgia. Coach knows all about that one. Mm-hmm. So as I raise our illegal motion custom beer glass,
look at you,
to Timmy Chang, because I am going to be rooting for him to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, I think it's really tough for some of these guys to come back and have their first head coaching gig be at their alma mater. There is so much pressure there.
Excuse me, I had to cough and mute myself there for a second. There is that pressure. It's reminiscent of Jonathan Smith, who took over Oregon State, his alma mater. Yeah,
he's done a pretty good job.
Took them to their first bowl game under him just last season. What I like about Timmy Chang, coach laid out, local kid, knows the program, knows some of the handcuffs with that program. But, he was on June Jones as a player and then was a graduate assistant with him. You look at some of the passing numbers that Nevada has had under him. They had one heck of a tight end this season, Cole Turner, 62 receptions, 677 yards, 10 touchdowns. He also coached some of the wide receivers.
The new age run and shoot, baby. Let's do it.
Yeah, coached some of their wide receivers, including a really good one. Romeo Dubes had over 1,100 yards receiving. The Wolfpack had a really good passing attack. And Timmy Chang played some part of that. I mean, he's been there since 2017 in some capacity as a wide receivers and tight end coach. So, I think he's got some coaching acumen. The biggest problem for Hawaii is what is the level of support that he's going to get from the university, because they were trying to handcuff June Jones with some of his hires, basically saying you're not going to have full say on your staff. And he's like, well, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to take this job. Their stadium is dilapidated. It's condemned. What exactly is their stadium situation going to be? It's
if Nick Rolovich had anything to do with it, they would not have any benches on the sideline ever.
Yeah, I mean, they're currently playing in a stadium that seats 4,000 people. It's been bumped up to 9,000, and they are desperately remodeling it to get it up to snuff.
It's like a high school field, isn't it?
Yeah, they claim that for the 2022 season and beyond, it'll be up to 15,000. So
that's still the smallest stadium in FBS, I have to imagine. 15,000. Like who is a stadium
Yeah.
smaller than 15,000?
Well,
Even
that's
San Jose, even San Jose State has a bigger stadium than that.
So,
Yes, they
well,
do.
the NCAA requires average of at least 15,000 in actual or paid attendance over a 2-year period. So, it's it's barely making that threshold. So, I mean, it's better than Aloha Stadium. Like I said, that thing had been, I think, condemned.
Yeah, condemned.
So, what's the level of support, and this is before even all the geographic constraints and travel required and all that fun stuff that Hawaii would have even if they had state-of-the-art facilities. So, if Timmy completely bombs, I'm actually not gonna judge it as his failure, but I'll be like, wow, that's kind of systemic of where Hawaii football has gone since June Jones. So
It is a very and that puts in perspective what June Jones
Yeah.
is able to do there. That is a hard place. That is a difficult place to win. And Timmy Chang knows what it takes. But can he overcome some of the other factors? That will remain to be seen, I think. So to me, I think he checks a lot of boxes. The experience box, obviously, he doesn't check, but again, it's Hawaii. They will have some patience with him.
Well, here's the thing that I want to figure out is Todd Graham's son, Michael Graham, gonna leave the transfer portal and come back to Hawaii now that his dad's gone?
Probably, yes. Did you guys see Todd? Speaking of Todd Graham, but it's Todd Grantham. Did you see that Third Grantham has now joined Alabama?
Oh, is he the next on the Nick Saban redemption tour?
Mm-hmm. I think Saban's jumping the shark at this point.
I mean, I thought he jumped the shark when he got Bill O'Brien, but
I think he's just messing with us all.
If Saban wants to prove that he can actually improve random assistants, he's got to go big. Brian Ferentz, associate head coach and offensive coordinator. Make it happen. Are we talking about Ferentz's promotion today?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Why not, Josh? What happened?
Well, former offensive coordinator.
Is he coming out with a new clinic?
Probably.
That we should watch on.
So
inside zone this time, though, not outside zone.
So it's going for 3 hours.
Former offensive coordinator and former quarterbacks coach Ken O'Keefe, from the early days of Ferentz, left. I don't know when. I'm going to say like 2010 to 13, 14, kind of around there, maybe. I don't know the exact time that he left, but Ken O'Keefe left.
2011 was his last season.
Yeah, went to the NFL, came back a few years ago to serve as quarterback coach. Spoiler alert: Iowa's quarterbacks haven't been very good, and so Ken O'Keefe was, I think they would call it in baseball, designated for assignment.
DFA.
But basically, O'Keefe moved into a different role, probably one of those very nebulous, like associate to the head coach, assistant to the head coach type roles. But he's not going to actually be the quarterback coach anymore. So current offensive coordinator Brian Ferentz, who's shown no aptitude. In fact, he's shown inaptitude. Well, now he's just going to coach the quarterback. So the good thing is, he was a record-setting quarterback back at his time. Oh, wait, no, he wasn't. He's an offensive lineman. But so now he's coaching the position. The only silver lining at all to come from this is Iowa legend, former linebacker, current South Dakota position coach Abdul Hodge is coming back to the family and going to be a position coach, including some offensive positions, which
that's a little strange.
Which is a little strange. Yes. Are you seeing some issues with Iowa's coaching staff?
To be fair, Wisconsin effectively fired their offensive line coach. They told him to go find another job. He found it at Virginia Tech, and they moved their inside linebackers coach to offensive line.
Yeah. So now, Abdul Hodge
also
coach
with that though,
bold strategy.
Bob Hostad was a long-time offensive line coach for the Badgers, and then the Titans and then he got kind of humbled, came back as inside linebackers coach. Actually did one hell of a job for Wisconsin. Now back on the offensive line for the coming season, which the Wisconsin faithful are quite excited about. But we're talking about Joe Rudolph, who got reassigned, if you will. Speaking of assistant coaches, this is actually something I want to talk about was Matt Luke. I was a little bit surprised when he stepped away from the game. What was it, this week, last week?
Last week.
Yeah. So what's the story there? And
burnout. Burnout is a real thing.
I mean, it is a real thing.
He was just flat burnout.
He's a young guy too.
Yeah, he is. But he was just flat. He was just flat burnout. I mean, the turmoil he went through at Ole Miss. Yeah, he's like 45, 46, something like that.
I thought he was like 38. So
no, he's like 46, but he's close. I guess he's closer to my age than y'all. But
you're like just a year older than us, so like yeah.
Technically, yes.
Brian Ferentz is our age. He's 38.
I'm like 3 years older than you, aren't I?
No, you're not.
Like
2 years. I think you're 2 years older than us, or older than me, which would make you 3 older than Josh. But you know,
yeah, I know I was 3 years older than one of you two.
Yeah, Josh is the baby around here. Despite what that hair would make you think.
I know Josh is 35. I'm 38.
And I'm 36. You want
my
social security number while we're at it?
Yeah, put it in the chat. All right, so people can copy it down and screenshot it. So no, I mean
you ain't getting much with that.
No, you're definitely not getting anything.
You want some worse credit? Here, take it.
Yeah, enjoy this debt.
Enjoy stealing my identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Raise your hand if you love college loans.
Yeah, they will give it right back to you. I'm sorry, I stole your identities or something. You did not have NordVPNs. So yeah, how's that for an ad?
Callback.
Yeah, how's that for an ad? So yeah, I mean his burnout was real. I mean the turmoil he went through at Ole Miss as a head coach and the unceremoniously way he exited there. Got fired. Coming to Kirby. Working for Kirby, working for Saban, working for some of those type coaches is a very difficult thing to do. I mean, it's physically taxing, mentally draining. I mean, with recruiting the way it is, it's year round now. Those guys get no break. Like people actually escape college football to the NFL to get breaks.
Because you don't have to recruit in the NFL. In recruiting never stops. There might be dead period, but let's face it, recruiting never stops.
No,
you're always eating film. I cannot imagine, especially if you're a recruiting coordinator, someone on a recruiting staff. Georgia has the biggest recruiting staff in the country. They have 20 people on that staff.
Yeah, it's insane.
They are going through more film and more freaking transcripts than I can possibly fit. Like, listen, I used to work admissions for UCLA at the film school. We would have 1,500 to 2,000 applicants for 40 spots every year. I think they go through 5 times as much stuff as I would for that kind of thing. And they're just doing it year round. It's absolutely insane.
I mean, they got people coordinating trips for the coaches. They're coordinating the Kirby copter. I mean, they got these guys going all over the freaking map. They're bringing kids in on the daily. They are doing virtual visits, virtual tours, recruiting graphics. These coaches are talking to kids all hours of the night, and not just the on-field coaches, but the analysts and the quality control guys can also communicate with recruits. They just can't travel. So they are burning up the phones. There's no such thing as bedtime. They're probably up at midnight, 1 a.m., Snapchatting, gramming, texting these kids, probably playing video games with them at some places. But, I mean, I'm getting tired just doing that. Like, I've had a lifelong dream of coaching in college football. I don't really want to anymore, knowing that you have to recruit the way you recruit. And I know I would get burnout personally. I'm burnout coaching high school sometimes. I'm not burnout at the moment, but I'm there's sometimes in November I'm just like, oh, I need to throttle down for a little bit. So I get it. I completely get it. and it's a real thing. And every insider that I've read says the same thing. He just seriously got burnt out and needed to step away. Now he'll come back in a year or two, but he just needed to step away.
So yeah, and it sounds like they are interested in Joe Rudolph.
Well, no, they've made a hire. They were interested in.
Okay.
Yeah, they were interested in. They brought back Stacey Searles, who is current.
They brought Auburn, right?
No, Stacey Searles was his previous job was at North Carolina, his most recent job.
Oh, okay. Was he ever at Auburn, or was he? I don't know. Why
Yes,
I thought he was at Auburn. Okay.
Yeah, I think he did a 1-year stint at Auburn.
Okay.
He was at Virginia Tech for a little while, and then he was at Miami for a bit.
So he's been around the block a little bit. What you're telling me?
He made the ACC tour, basically.
All right. Well, gentlemen, before we hit our last two topics quickly, we have one new sponsor here on Legal
I'm excited
Motion.
about this one.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one too. You've hit the big time because we are now sponsored by Athletic Greens. Everybody's taking multivitamins these days, so you want to make sure you've got the one that is top quality. With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to start your day right. I didn't even know what an adaptogen was before I got this ad read.
I still don't, but that's okay.
Well, it's okay.
It's probably good for you.
I would certainly hope so. The special blend from Athletic Greens supports your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and decreases aging. It's lifestyle friendly, fits a wide range of diets, and there's only 1 gram of sugar and no chemicals or artificial anything. So to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, all it takes is 1 scoop in a cup of water every day, and that's it. And it actually tastes pretty good. I had some of this shipped to my house, and you would think it might be tasting like super kale-y. It's not. It's actually pretty easy going down. And speaking of making it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/believe. That's BLEAV. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/believe. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Athletic Greens, take ownership of your health.
Nice.
All right, Jen.
That was a nice fast read.
Hey, you know what? I can do a couple things these days. You actually might not know this. I don't think I told you this, Coach. I'm writing. No, I'm writing a lot of the copy for these ads for Believe now.
Are you really?
Yeah, I wrote the NordVPN copy.
Did you really?
Yeah, nice. that was all me.
Oh, look at you.
So,
these statements are not evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease. How's that?
Yep. That's pretty good. Which reminds me, in high school, I did debate. I did debate club for a year, and I don't know if you guys have ever been to like a debate tournament. People speak stupid fast in debate, just absolutely stupid fast. So I got better at that, but I always had the problem because you guys know I have a lisp, and so I would my tongue would literally get in the way. Like I could not talk as fast as I was thinking. Anyhow, the opposite of that is not doing anything, which is what the NCAA Rules Committee is doing, because they are not fixing the playoff again, and they're not going to revisit it until this current contract, this 12-year contract, is up in 2025.
Wow.
You guys can go back in our archives. We have an entire show dedicated to how we would fix the playoff, what we would do. This ranges from, I think, going from what we believe would probably be the best way to do it is an FCS model, 24 teams, going all the way back to the old school bowl system, which at this point, I honestly think I might favor. I really do.
Yeah.
However, I'll get into that in a second. I mean, they didn't do anything, and what shocked me is that because so many of these conference commissioners are just all about the money, reports are that they left $450 million on the table. $450 million over the next 3 seasons. It's $150 million a year by not going to expansion of even 6 teams.
Wow. That's just. Was Hugh Jackson on the committee?
I mean, you
Art
know what?
Briles
They have similar common sense, it appears.
It appears. I mean, the whole world's clamoring for expansion. You know you're going to get the dollars if you expand.
Yes.
It's going to be show me the money. I mean, can you imagine the money you would make off of, and the money these universities would then make off of a 12-team playoff?
It's such a quick fix too, Josh. Like, as far as I'm concerned, you go from what we have now. You go to a 12-team playoff, and you get those top 4 seeds are going to get buys, obviously, and also they eliminate the New Year's Eve games because no one's watching them on New Year's Eve because everyone else is out getting drunk somewhere else.
I wasn't out getting drunk.
Well, neither was I, but my wife had COVID, so
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think most of our listeners know our stance on this. We're not breaking in new ground. All I could do.
But does Kate from Maine? She can actually see us now. She can actually put a face to our voices.
a beautiful face.
All I could do is go back to the most popular tournament that exists in college sports, March Madness.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Frozen Four.
And, well, Frozen Four is pretty good too. It's not the most popular, but this is a tournament that used to have 8 teams, got overshadowed by the NIT, which had more than 8 teams. Then they doubled to 16, did that for a couple years. And then they were at 22 to 25, but a whole bunch of teams got buys. About half the field got a bye. This was the glory days of UCLA. And UCLA was ruining college basketball because they won it every year and people hated it.
They were the Alabama football of their time. And
what changed is they lost a game. They lost a regular season game in the Astrodome to Phi Slamma Jamma. Houston totally changed. People are like, oh, wow, they could actually be beat. The NCAA also expanded the field to 25 teams with just 7 getting a bye. Then in the late or mid 70s, they bumped it up to 32. By the early 80s, it was 48. By the mid 80s, it was 53. And from 85 until 2000, it was 64, with just a few add-ons for the play-in games here recently. And the moral of the story is people loved the mayhem. They loved March Madness. Now, what does this matter? Isn't Alabama just going to dominate everything? Well, right now, if you want to win a college football national title, you have to go to a handful of schools, with Alabama being the most prominent of them. But let's say I am 5-star recruit Archie Manning, and I'm like, I want to win a national title, so I should go to Alabama, but I really love all the inventive stuff that Brian Ferentz is doing. I kind of want to go to Iowa. Well, if your number one
this is why I love the live stream, because we can see Matt dying over there.
If Archie Manning's number one thing in life is exposure and a national title, he's going to go to Alabama. And then it just continues the same system. But if he's told, hey, the field is 24 teams, we're Iowa, we're in the Big Ten. Like, if we're just competitive in the Big Ten, with the field being what it is, you're going to be in the tournament. You're going to have a chance. Maybe.
Also, turns out he wants to major in creative writing. Yeah. Where else would you want to go?
But so what it does is it's going to break up the talent. That's what ended. That's what ended the UCLA dynasty. Is UCLA basically called up the top like 30 players in college basketball. And then the Wizard of Westwood, unknowingly, because he was never quote unquote told about it, but the UCLA boosters would funnel a whole bunch of money. They ignored the over-signing laws, and they signed about 25 kids. And then in practice, they would pare down to what the NCAA allowed you to have, which was about 15 players. But they ended up with, oh my goodness, wow, the 15 best college basketball players
All play for UCLA.
pretty much in the country. And they dominated it. But all it took was a little bit of talent going elsewhere to start kind of chipping away at this. And as much as people will say, well, Duke dominates recruiting, Kentucky dominates recruiting. Like, yeah, they're
But Villanova won a national championship a few years ago.
Yeah,
like,
they won 2. Like,
yeah,
it's it's been
Baylor's
a
the
while.
reigning national champion.
Yeah, it's been a while since Kentucky won a national title.
Gonzaga made a final.
Yeah, Gonzaga made 2 finals.
2 Final Fours.
Gonzaga would not exist in college football.
Absolutely not.
And I know people will say, well, yeah, people will say, I know the contrarian argument will be, well, football's way more athletes. It's not the same. You need to have a complete team. In basketball, one guy can make a difference. And that's not really 100% true. I mean, we literally just saw the Bengals have 1 wide receiver and 1 quarterback make the Super Bowl. Like, crazy things can happen.
Dog, that was all Eli Apple.
Crazy things can happen. We saw Cincinnati. Cincinnati had a dynamic quarterback, some amazing secondary players, but hell of a coaching job. I mean, it's possible. Like, that's why we need to expand the field. It's going to save the sport.
It really is.
And the committee is ruining the sport. I am like one of the 3 biggest college football fans I know. And this is the first year I have watched the playoff final. And the only reason I watched it was one of my best friends had skin in the game. And I wanted to see if Georgia would get the job done. If I didn't know Corey, I would not have given a rat's behind. I wouldn't have watched a second of it because I don't care. But give me mayhem. Give us fun stuff. That's what we want to see. And for people, I know there's a slim group that say, well, what about the bowls? We gotta preserve the bowls. Hey, you know what? No one remembers any of the bowl winners. Like, who won the granddaddy of them all in 2011? I don't know. Couldn't tell.
I actually do know that it was Oregon because they beat the Russell Wilson Wisconsin team.
Very good. Well, I went to Wisconsin. I saw that game. I didn't even remember it.
Did you go to the game with me?
No, I went to the TCU game.
You went to TCU with me. Yeah, that's right.
But
who won the Gasparilla Bowl 3 years ago?
I don't think the Gasparilla Bowl existed 3 years ago.
And I mean, the other thing too, lastly, to kind of tie a bow on this, going back to basketball for just one moment to kind of see how stupid this is. The NIT was more prestigious. And you know what? Yeah. Things changed. No one remembers the 1949 NIT champion.
No one remembers the 2019 NIT national champion.
Also true.
They
also
don't.
True.
Nobody cares. It's just extra basketball.
But people remember where they were with back-to-back Butler national title games. George Mason. I could just say
VCU.
Yeah, you could just say the name of the school. For some of them, you can just say a name. Ali Farokhanash, Kansas.
Oh, he destroyed my bracket that year. Northern Iowa.
Yep.
God, Sham God.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's
Bryce Drew, Valparaiso.
Yeah.
Ugh. You're bringing me back, Josh. You're bringing me back.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to talk about, change. NCAA updated their marijuana testing threshold, and it has significantly reduced the penalties for testing positive for pot. They have more than quadrupled the allowable amount of THC. And so they are now finally in line with WADA, World Anti-Doping Agency. The WADA threshold is anything under 150 nanograms per milliliter. What you are fine. NCAA's was 35 nanograms per milliliter. So basically, like if you had smoked pot like once in like 2 months prior, you were going to get a positive test, and that immediately led to a 50% regular season ban. Obviously, society has changed. Marijuana laws have changed around the country. Everyone knows that marijuana use is prevalent, especially among athletes for pain relief. There's been numerous medical studies done on cannabis being an effective pain relief medicine, and in many ways is much better than the opioids that a lot of athletes are given to manage pain. It's not nearly as addictive. It does not have a lot of the same side effects, and some of those side effects are, well, quite fun. But now there is effectively students, if they can now test positive up to 3 times without actually having to miss any time in any games. And then once they finally do pass those 3 tests, they only miss 25% instead of 50%. I think this is a huge step in the right direction that no one's really talking about. Personally, I am for complete abolition of any sort of marijuana restrictions, but obviously that you can't really do that under federal law. But especially if, let's say I'm an athlete at UCLA. We'll just take UCLA for example. It's in California. In California, marijuana is completely legal. I can walk into a dispensary. I don't even need a medical card anymore, and I can buy it. If I'm a student athlete, why shouldn't I be able to do the same? I'm just curious as to your guys' sort of thoughts on this and sort of where you see this progressing over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think eventually we'll get to where it is just legal across the country federally. But they can, because they can once they learn that they can really tax the hell out of it and make money off taxes like they do with alcohol and cigarettes, then
sin tax, baby. That's sin tax.
The sin tax. So once it becomes fully legal federally, that's when the NCAA would probably just abolish the whole rules on that. So. But I think if you can get it down to the lowest possible threshold of like, hey, if I smoked last week, it doesn't matter, just as long as I don't like smoke at the drug test, we're good. While you're peeing, just blow smoke rings in the dude's face while he's watching you. I think there's bigger things at hand when they're drug testing, like supplemental use, because that stuff is increasing. There's a lot of increasingly dangerous stuff that these athletes are putting in their body, much worse than marijuana. So, I would stress a further education on the effects of marijuana and making sure these athletes know what exactly they're putting into their body.
Yeah.
But to me, I don't know. I don't think it's really any worse than alcohol.
In a lot of ways, it's actually not nearly as bad as alcohol.
It just affects a different part of your body, but
yeah, it affects a different part of your body. But also, on top of that, Josh, I think that if you are, if you're getting stoned too much, it's probably going to affect your play on the field, which means you're probably not going to be seeing the field. So,
exactly.
you're sort of going to weed yourself out that way.
Nice pun.
Yeah.
I think, I think eventually it'll be like what you said, Matt, where once it's decriminalized at the federal level, that that'll change quite a bit. because it makes no sense if it's legal in a state or jurisdiction to really do much more than maybe a little bit of educating on it to that point. I do think though it's interesting that and this goes for alcohol as well, that a lot of the penalties are really like coach dependent, school dependent, and quite frankly, how important the player is. Where it's like, oh, the third string punter got a DUI, so he's kicked off the team. But the starting
but Spencer Petrus gets popped on a drug test.
The starting
Iowa might be
quarterback
better without
the
Pete
starting
Rose,
quarterback gets a DUI, and it's he's just gonna miss the first series. That's like, oh, okay. Or the worst feeling is like, oh, our coach is like an old curmudgeon who like suspends you for the rest of the year, and our biggest rival doesn't have any suspensions whatsoever. And it's like, wait, what? How is there not like a little bit more uniform? Like, here's the thing: you get blank, it's blank, and every school is on board. You don't have any crazy draconian coach being a jerk. You don't have any like new wave hippy dippy coach shrugging their shoulders and doing this Simpsons line of "We've tried nothing, man, and we're all out of ideas." Like just standardize it, whatever it is. Standardize it, because
I was thinking that I was listening to an interview with Ricky Williams recently where he was saying that he would be interested in coaching. Yeah. I cannot imagine his approach to this.
Well,
so he'd probably have everyone smoking as a team, but
all three of us are in education, and the worst thing possible for any sort of management is Timmy has their cell phone out and you don't say anything. And then Janet has her cell phone out and you go ballistic and take it from her and throw it and destroy her phone. It's like, yeah, you've just lost the whole classroom.
Yeah.
So it's like just.
Well, the NCAA though is toothless, so they're not gonna do anything. I think the only person I expect less from than Mark Emmert is Rob Manfred. So
Nice.
I'm gonna leave it there. I think that's
a
good place for us to wrap this up this evening.
Hey Matt, before we get out of here, I just want to mention on our inaugural live video stream here that the different places you can find us. You can find Matt at Believe in Badgers. Him and old Matty Bernstein, the Hebrew Hammer himself. Do a tremendous job with that show. That show is growing very rapidly.
You got big stuff in the works, gentlemen. I am super excited. We had I can't reveal this publicly yet, but we had a really big productive meeting today with someone very important in and around the Badger program, and
they're going on Skinamax. Oh wait.
No, well that's for our OnlyFans page. So
there you go.
God.
Oh boy. So
they don't call him the Hebrew Hammer for nothing, folks.
All right, that's my cue to click the leave button. I'll see you all later.
And Josh is like, wait a second, hold on, no. I'm gonna do some research.
Believe in Badgers, believe in Vandy. Believe in Vandy. We're on an off season we're taking the offseason off a little bit. My co-host Ryan Seymour just had a beautiful baby girl. Congrats!
You'll come back. You'll come back when Vanderbilt football is competitive again. So that show will restart in about 2029.
You think it's going to be that soon? I don't, and I'm a season ticket holder. But Believe in Badgers is where I'm spending a lot of my efforts these days. Obviously, with you guys, the OG podcast. We are that's the
9 years and growing. Yeah,
baby. Entering season 9. That is absolutely insane to me. You can find the coach. Believe in Dogs. Believe in Georgia football. Beasts of the East. What else you got kicking around these days, Coach? You got more podcasts that I can keep up with.
Yeah. So yeah, believe in Georgia Dogs, of course, with Israel and I, and Beast of the East with Vinny Hardy and I, and SEC After Dark, which you can find all on these whole platforms. So it's exciting, and I will kick it back to you for so that we can close. But find us, keep on finding us, and keep on listening.
All right, gentlemen. Well, thanks so much. And until next time, on behalf of our own offensive coordinator, the coach, Corey Burton, in Music City, and our intrepid blogger from Big Ten Accounting, Josh Cook, up there in the Windy City, this is the Professor Emeritus in Nashville, Tennessee, saying so long and see you next time on the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast.